Webflow or WordPress, which one would you defend in a bar fight?
Oh, that is a good question. Wow. Yeah, that's a really good question.
Okay, welcome to the Somewhat Creative Show, Season 2.
Woo!
I'm Rocky Tilney.
I'm Clark Miller, and that was Chris Grau, and we'll get to them in a moment.
But first, Hand Drawn is back, baby.
All right, let's jump into it. I'm loving this
Clark,
trend.
so-
I got to be honest with you.
I mean,
The hand drawn.
what a better
trend.
way to start Season 2 than talking about old school throwback to hand-drawn stuff, right?
It makes me feel good because as this AI stuff takes over, I feel like we are losing so much of the skills that we once possessed. And everything I used to do in Photoshop is now, I don't need to do it anymore. And so I kind of feel like at least this like trend to pushing towards the real and the like actually in camera and hand drawn stuff, it's like kind of, it makes me feel like maybe there is a chance it kind of swings back around to all that,
Maybe. And I know it's really cool. Apple TV redid their intro. And you've probably seen it. It's, their old intro was like the CG of the Apple logo, just kind of like forming onto the screen. And now you see it's like this multicolored sort of like fanning effect with the Apple logo, and it's kind of sort of translucent. Yep. And I was really, really surprised to find out that that was not CG at all. They actually filmed like acrylic plates that were all color coded in studio and like animated them in real life.
And layered it. I mean, they definitely brought
sequence.
It into a program like After Effects or something, and they cleaned up like the strings that were holding them or whatever.
Right.
They edited things, but all of the effect was very, analog in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see a company use practical effects for their, for their intro like that. I thought that was pretty surprising. And I'm wondering what like sort of the thought process for them was to do that. Like it would have been a lot easier just to CG that thing.
Well, yeah, it would have taken one person, a day to do that. And because it wasn't that complex of an animation. It was just like some layered pieces of, thin glass, which is pretty easy to do in rendering programs. But I do wonder how much of that was done for the marketing, because as you know, and as I've learned, it's like, a lot of what does really well on social media, for example, is behind the scenes, like the making of. People want to see how things were done. And you can't really do that if you're just, going into After Effects or any number of the other ones I can't recall at the moment. There's not a lot of behind the scenes footage of that, of guy just on a mouse and just kind of clicking some buttons to make it happen. That's not going to go viral on social media. So how much of the creating this effect in camera was so that they could film the behind the scenes and do interviews about it and do podcasts about it. I don't know. That's my cynical take.
But. Yeah, and it's not. And I don't think it's necessarily cynical. I think everyone, including big brands like Apple, they're looking for content. They want unique content that they could kind of share and put out there on social, and that kind of leans into their unique brand of creativity. So, I think it's a great idea, and I think I think it's a really good lesson for companies, big or small, to try to lean in and show the process. Show, what does it take to do a logo? What does it take to build a website? Show all the nuances that are involved in that. It's not, it's not just like clicking a button and you have this beautiful thing. Even with AI tools, it's not super straightforward, and you still have to do a lot of human adjustments to things.
It's true.
As well.
And it's funny, I think a lot of what we talk about with the like going back to this like handmade aesthetic and doing things analog without the assistance of AI, and a lot of it is like we want to recapture that kind of magical of like art just sort of bubbling up, and we kind of are waiting for those magical moments when things don't go right, but then that ends up being better than what you were planning anyway. And that the ironic thing about that is I've definitely found that working with the AI generation tools and blending those tools together and working in programs, like some of that does kind of give you that same like, oh, I didn't expect it to spit that out, and there are ways I feel like you still get that a little bit,
Yeah. And I think if you're not a creative, like AI is not going to make you creative, but if you are creative, it's going to enhance your creativity. And And that's something I've heard many people say, recently, is that you have to think of it that way. It's not a solution. It's not a silver bullet if you're not a creative person. But for creatives out
Yeah.
there that already know how to do this and know the process of creativity, I think it could be a real boost. And it gives you that. Sometimes it gives you that feeling like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. This is great. I know how to do this now, or I figured out this new method or workflow with AI. So you're constantly discovering new things rather than getting entrenched into the old ways. But now we're talking about the old ways again. We're talking about sketching and slow. Is this, dare I say, the slow art movement now, or the slow design movement, where we are just kind of like slapping the paper down on and then just blank slate and just go for it?
Yeah, it very much could be. And I think, maybe there are two things happening simultaneously. The one is the AI trend of moving away from AI generations and those type of things and those tools, but there's also this simultaneous trend of like maximalizing your designs and getting away from the minimalist movement that we've had for the last 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know, everything's gotten more minimal and more minimal, and now it's like, so it's I think these two trends are sort of coming together and blending together for designers and artists to be like, let's do this big, let's go all out for this. And I think that Apple, logo is kind of a good example of that too. It's like they could have done it more simply, but they wanted to do it with as much of a challenge almost as possible.
I think one of the bellwethers that we're going to see in a relatively short order here with the Super Bowl on Sunday is how advertising is going to be done right now. And this is the showcase for advertising for the year, essentially, is the Super Bowl. Yep. How much is going to be AI? How much is going to be analog? What's that going to look like? I'm really, really curious to see what those ads are going to be focused on and how they're executed.
I think the funniest example of all this is Anthropic and OpenAI. The two companies giving us the most amount of AI tools are the ones in their marketing pushing the most like stripped down, like in camera, actual people, actual actors. Like the AI companies that are giving us the tools to replace people are the ones that are trying hardest to like show us we still care about people. We still want people in our advertising.
Yeah. And because it's creepy not to. It's creepy to say that we're giving you the tools to eliminate other humans.
Yeah,
right.
And of course, that's not their message, right? It's like they're trying not to give that message, but it's also like it kind of is. But what a weird time to be alive.
We're and I've said this before on previous episodes. This is a major inflection point for designers, for creatives, and not just designers and creatives. I don't know if you saw the news about Claude. Just I think yesterday came out about. They released a new tool in their suite that allows you to run contracts and do things. So it actually tanked the legal SaaS markets, like Rocket Lawyers and those types of tools, like pretty like double-digit percentage points in the market, because like that's kind of the writing on the wall. I mean, I've actually had AI review contracts for me before. Like, hey, are there any blind spots here? What am I missing? Blah blah blah. And isn't that fantastic? That's a great tool for me. You don't have to spend money on an attorney.
Anytime you don't have to, spend money as at least for business operator.
Yeah. Even for simple like consumer contract things, mostly not really business
stuff that maybe doesn't matter as much if you get it wrong. But
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a crazy time. Do you think that this movement towards hand drawn and like this all these companies kind of pushing more into the real and to the in-camera stuff, like, does it last? Is it a niche that's going to stick around and still be present in 5 years?
I think it'll always, stay present. Think about some of the other animation styles like stop motion. It's like,
it's a good example.
The Muppets, there's these practical effect sort of ways to communicate ideas or to tell stories, to get messages across. And I think there'll always be a little bit of a nostalgic reason to go back to those things. But sometimes I think, at least for this generation currently, who knows if that stuff will be brought back in a future generation, or if the novelty will be there. But I think for the time being, we're still going to see that stuff come out. People love nostalgia. Nostalgia sells.
That's true.
And we'll see it probably in the Super Bowl too.
Yeah. The nostalgia being a selling point is probably something that will never really leave us, right? Like if all the trends kind of die out, like one day people will there will be a style, just like we have like the 2000s, synthwave core style of like design, where we're going to have an era in 10 years where they're going to go back and it's going to be called like the weird clay, mushy AI generated style. And people will be making that style because AI will have gotten so good that it can do all these other styles perfectly. It's like somebody's going to be designing things that look like early days of AI with all the artifacting and weird lines that break apart and don't go anywhere, and it'll be intentional though. Like they'll be doing it intentionally. And you mark my words, 10 years from now, come call me and we'll talk about it. We'll get it on the pod.
Well, I'm sure we'll still be doing the show in 10 years.
Oh yeah
for sure.
Or I'll be dead.
We'll be AI versions of ourselves doing the show, but
I'm gonna be uploaded into the computer, so I can do the podcast anytime.
There's a brain floating in this like glass jar.
Singularity, it's coming. It's coming, man. We're all just gonna upload our brains and go. I don't know what we do at that point.
So yeah, I do think it's interesting. I think it's something for everyone that's in the the creative field or not to keep an eye on, to see if we do revert back to more analog design, and if people want to see more human stuff out there. Like, this was created by a human, handcrafted things. Is that going to be more important, right? Not not computer generated things.
Can I ask one more question about this? What counts as hand drawn anymore? Like, if I go on my iPad and use an Apple Pencil and draw something, for a while there, that was considered like a digital expression of art and like not true. I don't know. It's like, is it hand drawn? Because you're artificially creating
it's the medium,
strokes.
Though. But you could use a pencil, you could use a pen. So call it digital ink if you want. It's still hand drawn. It's hand to implementation, and then the medium, right? It's hand drawn. Really, so
it's funny what counts now.
I've always thought that counted, honestly, is like digitally.
Good to know.
Is to be able to actually use.
Then I am an artist. Then I've done.
You are an artist,
drawings.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that counts. Now, if you're prompting and something comes out of it that looks hand drawn, that's not hand drawn. That's not computer generated for sure.
All right, I won't count those things. It does get into a whole area of like how to credit the art that comes out, and that's an area that I've explored a lot just because of the work I do, and we do a lot of editorial art at the Information, and our approach is generally like to credit the artist, the person that prompted, as well as the AI like marking that it is AI generated. But unless you have taken that into a program like Photoshop and actually altered it, and that's what the courts have all said so far, is that as soon as you can't copyright AI generated art, like nothing that an AI is generating can be copywritten. But it can be, it does fall under copyright laws as soon as you take that piece of art and alter it in some way with a human hand. How much is, maybe that's, the gray area. And like, I don't entirely know how much you have to do. Like, is it one pixel? Is there a certain amount of percentage that you need to alter for it to become yours? But that's generally the approach that we've taken. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that if you're creating something original, but you're modifying it, like photographers have done this forever, right? They're modifying their levels, they're adjusting their curves, the contrast, the coloring. Even in the lab when you were developing film, there were things you can do to adjust for color, tone. Those were all stylistic design choices, but it never took away that was the artist's photo. It was still their photo, still their art. So I think, if we are manipulating things or using a digital tool to do that, I still think it's a huge separation from that to having something, prompted and designed for you, because it's using shared knowledge to do that without additional human input. So it's human knowledge is where it's getting these ideas from, these concepts from, but it's like the collective, right? It's the hive mind creation, which to me feels very like not human in many ways.
Yeah, except there is that human input through the prompting and like what your knowledge feeds into. Yeah, because the prompt is somewhat of an art form, right?
It could be for sure, but the output isn't human. That's the input is, but the output isn't. So it's a really fascinating conversation, though. I do.
It is, and that's why I get into like the iPad and like drawing on the iPad and whether or not that's the same as drawing on a piece of paper, because there's that level of like interface and interpretation and digital transcription that happens. I don't know. It's an interesting, finding that line and knowing where that line is probably an endless debate, but fascinating stuff. All right. We just kicked off season 2 talking about the return of the hand-drawn design aesthetic and the anti-AI movement. But now we've got someone joining us who's been in the trenches, building in the digital side of the creative world for over 2 decades.
He's a web developer who partnered with us on more projects than we could count, mostly keeping us out of trouble with Webflow and WordPress sites. And somehow he's still working with me on projects at Upspire Labs. Go figure.
But here's the thing. Before he was pushing pixels, he was pushing iron. Pushing iron or pumping iron? I think he was pushing and pumping, and I don't know what else. Anyway, he was a personal trainer, so that's interesting. And before that, a biochemistry degree. So, we've got some questions for you, Chris.
All right. I'm here to answer.
Please welcome Chris Grau to the Somewhat Creative Show.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Chris. So you're a friendly face to us. We've worked with you for years on various projects. But what we want to start with is a rapid fire warm up just to get you loose and stuff here, okay? Because we're just some friends talking about stuff, right? So
sounds good.
So this is going to be a new season 2 tradition we're starting. We're going to go rapid fire right out of the gate. Last season we did it at the end of the show when we were all tired and grumpy. So now we want to do it in the beginning of the show where we have some energy. So I'm going to give you a couple questions and
behind the scenes.
Clark, we could switch between these questions. Actually, I think that'd be more fun. I'll start with the first question for Chris, which is Webflow or WordPress, which one would you defend in a bar fight?
Oh, that is a good question. Wow. Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd probably defend Webflow.
Really?
Okay.
I thought you'd go with WordPress for sure.
Now, WordPress has a lot of issues, so I think if I had to default to something, it would be Webflow, just because it follows more of a web development platform. If you're actually, from a WYSIWYG viewpoint, it follows more of a development platform.
Also, WordPress, it's been around the block. It can handle itself in a bar fight. Let's be honest. Fine. It's got a switchblade somewhere stashed away in some weird folder.
Yeah, switchblade.
Honestly, WordPress is in the back alley sitting on a bucket smoking a cigarette.
It is.
That's what it's doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not messing around. Chris, you have a degree in biochemistry, which I did not know until we decided to have you on the pod. Yep. What the hell? How'd that happen?
When you're bored, or
dabble in biochemistry.
You're just
out of boredom.
You're just like, what could I do that sounds impressive, but I don't have to put a lot of work into, science.
Sure. I love it. I mean, how, like, is that something you went to, like, do you have a degree in that? Did you have a degree in it? So you went to, a school of some sort, a university?
Yeah. I went to
Ivory
Southern
Towers.
Oregon. Yep. Southern Oregon University here in Oregon. So the quick rendition of that is I did well in chemistry in my senior year of high school. And, but I also loved fitness and training, and I was a middle distance runner. So I set out to become an exercise physiologist, but SOU did not offer that program, and I wanted to stay local, just simply because I was poor as a child, as a high school, college, as we all are. So lived with the parents.
College.
And
it's too expensive.
Yeah. So went in to do athletic training, did that as my senior project, and then went into a major of athletic training at SOU, and realized it was only going to pay $15,000 a year at the time back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I switched to a 5-year program, which was biochemistry.
And bonus, you probably, got to know how to like mix your own steroids.
I did. Yeah, I did actually.
That probably worked out well.
Yeah.
If one hand feeds the other,
it's great.
Never thought about that.
There you go.
Interesting idea. Is that, it was funny because the next question is, so personal trainer to web developer, what sort of skills came over, if any, from that?
The roids for sure.
Yeah. So the training kind of came later. That was actually, so I've been training friends since I was in college, off and on. So I never did it professionally as a younger age while I was doing chemistry, but later, and I did it professionally for a short bit. And, there's a lot of industry standards um, that come along with that as far as money goes. Well, I didn't want that to interfere with the web development at the time, so I got out of it. So I just stayed on the sidelines training friends for the most part. But
right.
there are absolutely zero skills that come from that going to web development or biochemistry or vice versa.
But you know what? Talk about a niche. That would personal training websites, like you could really find that niche to drill down into if you really wanted to.
I suppose, I mean, it's a weird combination. I wanted to run in the Olympics when I was younger, so that's what fueled that. And chemistry was just something I enjoyed. And you tie those together. And then my father was a serial entrepreneur, so that's how I got into web development. He wanted to get a website back in the 90s when they were becoming popular, and as his son, I wanted to build it for him. And so I learned Flash at the time, then got certified in it, became a specialized web developer in it for the longest time, and got on different sites and became #1 in the country on guru.com as a web developer, front-end web developer for a while, and then kind of built it from there. So
do you miss Flash, Chris?
Yes and no. It was,
After Effects is probably what it is now, I guess.
Yeah, that would.
I guess. I mean, how much have you? Speaking of like motion graphics within web design and everything, it's like the tools now. I just feel like we had Flash. That was kind of the only thing you could, if you wanted something that looked a little more stylized, a little bit more kind of impressive. That was the tool for so long. And now it just seems like, any of Webflows, any of the Elementors, of the world give you a lot more opportunity for that kind of creativity. Is that something you've kind of like love seeing in the world of web development, the creativity has got? Because it just seems like for the longest time, it was like you just coded, and it was like building websites was a very, it was creative, but it was like creative in a way that's like, you got to know the data, you got to know the ones and zeros of it,
Flash gave that opportunity to do whatever you wanted to do. And so I would compare After Effects to being like movie clips within Flash, where you did separate animations and then you put it into the main or the root timeline. So that would be obviously Premiere at this point. But yeah, it's I feel like honestly we've gone backwards as far as animation goes and all that. But when Apple killed Flash, plugins for their browsers, for some then that kind of being the leader they are, that got rid of Flash altogether.
Yeah, now everything's a micro interaction.
Yeah. I never thought about that, Chris, when you mentioned we kind of gone backwards. I do feel like there was a moment when we were really leaning into these really rich animated experiences online. I remember years ago, quick little side story here. I was working with an agency that had the sole rights to Gumby and Pokey. You remember Gumby? You remember Gumby and Pokey?
Yeah.
Sure.
Gumby and Pokey, there was Art Clokey. They had an exclusive agreement to sell merchandise and build this website. It was called Pokey's World or Gumby's World, not Pokey. Pokey was the sidekick.
I've been to Pokey's World.
Gumby's
That's
World.
A different site altogether. Don't go there.
Wow.
That's the alley where WordPress lives, right?
That's right.
After the podcast is over, we talk about that.
Yeah. So anyway, it was really interesting, but we did a ton of animation with Flash on that site. It was like this whole like amusement parks idea of this entertainment and e-commerce together. And I just don't really see us doing that anymore. I think the closest thing I've seen to really immersive animation is like Lottie files. And Lottie animations, but still I don't see a whole lot of that, to be honest.
Yeah, that's like an updated version of GIF animation in my opinion. It's more vector based, and
it's a vector,
yeah, but
correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. It feels like the movement to the death nail of that was the fact that everything has to work across platforms.
Yeah,
because you could build a Flash site and it would work great, in the desktop version. This was pre all the mobile experiences we have now, and different size screens and different, everything has to comport within these different realms. So I think that's probably like the standardization and the need to simplify and make your site work honestly on like a 5G, before 5G, like a 4G kind of network. It's like all that animation took up a lot of bandwidth, right?
So that was the beauty of Flash is, you took a GIF animation that would be like at the time, if you were 100K, kilobytes, for a GIF animation that was fairly, considerably large for what it was probably something very minor, in movement, whereas Flash could turn that into like 10 kilobytes and you could do a lot more with it. So that was, and it was also very, relative speaking as far as expanding and contracting to a certain degree on your screen, even though we didn't have that. A lot of sites were 800 by 600 pixels. They that was your low end for breakpoints, even though no one knew what breakpoints were back then. And and then that kind of went to 1024. That was the larger size for width. But yeah, it was pretty remarkable. What it could do for the amount of kilobytes it was producing.
What you could get out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of, I related to Illustrator versus InDesign in the Adobe family, because Illustrator files are notoriously large in file size, but InDesign is very optimized. So, the same file is significantly different in file size in a physical, file size. So, that's how I looked at Flash versus GIF animation, and it became very popular, of course, in the 90s. So I think we've gone backwards in that sense, but as far as flexibility and design and animation, but developing in Flash and communicating with the browser can be very problematic. You're using ActionScript in that sense, and that's similar to JavaScript.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people were working with Cold Fusion back in the day and using that.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, right. So, people were using that. They were using, maybe on the front end .NET, some PHP, SQL or school, databases, and then it became the MySQL databases with the PHP, and that became the more popular platform. So, there was issues with that, but some of the high-end designers and developers out there, like Two Advanced Studios, they were, in the top 5 in the world for Flash development. They were down in Southern California. They were, doing leading edge stuff, and I personally miss it. I love it, so everything.
That stuff was cool. Yeah.
And it's just become more of a template based look on site designs. If you really break them down, they're all, it's still,
it's like,
I was just going to say, it's still like tables, except you have floating containers that you could technically move pixel by pixel.
Well, and that's one of the things I was going to bring up too, is like, I feel like we're bridging the gap between designer and developer now, because we have so many assists available to us.
Right.
You had mentioned templates. We have AI site builders now. Webflow has an AI builder. So when you start a new Webflow project, it's like build with AI, and you're like, holy crap, like what does that do? And it actually builds an outline of the site for you, and everything's are like pre-built pages and stuff. But I also feel at the same time you're missing, when we have AI do that sort of thing, I feel like we're missing the nuances and the decisions that humans make to make things truly unique. And I was wondering if you've seen kind of that, you see the gap bridging a little bit, but is there any hope for straight, like pure design and pure development, that traditional handoff, or how do you see it?
Yeah, I don't think so anymore. I think we're in a world of, AI is going to be the ultimate tool to create things quicker and cheaply. And, it reminds me of 99 Designs or something similar, where it's, or templates, for whatever platform, people can do a lot cheaper to do that. And it's got a set of design in it. Elementor, you can easily just produce your copy and images if you purchase that particular plan, within Elementor. So technically you need someone to, I suppose, or you need to buy a layout using Elementor, and then you can do your own images and copy. So having a designer or developer come in would be very minimal at that point if you're trying, if you're looking for a cost-effective solution.
Right. So that,
what have you tried? just speaking of AI though, in web development, have you done a lot with like the new kind of coding tools and AI Claude bots and whatever?
Yeah, I've looked into it. I think I fall in the camp of software engineers that are doing this a lot where, we've always had snippets of code where those became popular with Dreamweaver and other platforms back in the day in early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's becoming something like that. So it's helping you in some sense work more efficient, and in other ways it's not, because you still have to review the copy, or the code. So like you would copy. So I think it's just a tool right now.
Yeah.
I think that's all.
And I think we've seen like there's a whole crop of web developers and coders and programmers that are now selling themselves or billing themselves as a fixer for AI projects that have, gone off the rails. I'll come in and
that's right.
kind of clean up all your code for that project, because AI will screw you up.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer that'll be. Like, that's the question, right? Is it going to get better and better, and to the point where that's not as needed? I don't know.
Well, if you follow the stock market this week, there's a big dump in software stocks because of Anthropic, producing a new tool for.
We were just talking about that,
for legal based, items. It seems like an overreaction, because a lot of the companies like Snowflake and Salesforce and all of them are gonna, I'm sure, integrate, AI into their systems and continue the retention of customers. So,
and fire 60% of the staff.
Right. Yes. So
sorry, everybody at Snowflake.
So this might be, I equate this movement in the stock market to the DeepSeek, movement last year with data center infrastructure.
Yeah.
So we had a super big fall and then it recovered. It almost V-shaped. And so, today it's recovering, but it also hit hardware stocks, like infrastructure stocks for data center plays as well the next day. So now today we're recovering. So it was just overdone. So I was just watching some information about RSI, relative strength index, on a lot of software plays, and oversold would be a level of 30, and now they're at 20, a lot of them. So it's been way overdone. And then a lot of the infrastructure stocks on top of that have been overbought, like Micron and SanDisk and Western Digital. They've been in the overbought territory. So it's not a surprise that when the opportunity comes up for people to sell those, they're going to take profits or dump the stock in because they're scared. It's all emotional. So
these AI, a lot of these AI developments and stuff, these new announcements that the AI companies come out with, it seems like people panic because they feel like it's going to be disruptive to their industries that they're investing in or interested in, right? So like the legal one was a good example of that. We'll probably continue to see that, I would imagine, as new things happen.
Absolutely.
So, Figma is disruptive to Adobe, right? For various reasons. Canva's disruptive to Adobe.
Right.
And so is there going to be an AI tool that comes out by any of these large AI companies? And I know Gamma is one company. They're a little smaller, probably a lot smaller, but they could be disruptive to a host of tools. They do presentations, graphics, imagery, all of that. So it's just really interesting to see this, because I think we're going to be seeing probably lots of industries disrupted by how much influence AI companies have in terms of overlapping what they're what they're experts at.
Yeah, that's correct, because the one wave that we haven't even began to see is implementation of AI into, it's happening already, but we're not on the surface through media seeing, with research companies, drug companies, you're seeing it a little bit, healthcare, that sort of thing. I've heard about Palantir has been, a big topic because they've worked, with different government agencies, and that's half of their business, but they've also improve the ROI for many companies, including hospitals, and the efficiency of seeing patients and that whole system, and they've done that, many times over in the past several years. I think you're just going to see more of that. It's going to be about efficiency, and what does that mean for job loss, and do people move on to different things, and what does that all mean? That's what we're going to find out here. But this is similar to, the internet came about, cloud companies came about, with Google and Amazon in the mid, teens, and the internet back in the 90s. So everyone, and we saw a disruption in e-commerce, for example, when the internet came about. But that's also when Amazon started, when they started books through e-commerce, and that evolves. I think anytime you have a large disruption in technology, you're going to find winners and losers, but you're also going to see, new jobs created, but also old jobs, deleted, basically.
What's interesting,
nostalgic jobs like we were just talking earlier in the show,
yeah,
Rocky.
That's true. That's true.
We were talking about handcrafted, the return to in-camera effects, and there's a whole market now for, stuff that's not done on the computer and AI generated.
And there's just visceral reactions to AI slop. People don't generally like it. They don't like to see something that was done in AI.
And Meta keeps trying to get me to use their little Meta AI, social media platform. And I'm like, why do I want to just, I'm trying to avoid looking at AI generated slop. And this is a platform entirely made for and of AI generated.
Here's a question I'm going to throw out to you guys both, because I've been thinking about this a lot. When you think about the film industry, so we go, Star Wars, 1977, pretty much all practical effects. There were some vector.
Do you remember taking your kids to that when it came out, Rocky?
Dude, I was 3.
Okay,
anyway.
All right, sure.
Anyway, so we go from practical effects to CG. And I think there was some little turmoil with fans, especially when Star Wars remastered their practical effects with CG effects, like the fans didn't like it, right? And so then we go with this whole everything's CG. We had Jurassic Park, which was probably the most famous film that was practical effects and CG. Does it make a difference today? I guess here's the question I'm getting to. Does it make a difference if there's something in CG, characters, animations, films, whatever, versus AI CG, quote unquote, right? Like, if we can't tell the difference, does it matter how we get to that end effect?
It's a good question. I think back to the days of like Pixar, and when they were trying to master the CG, like hair and those type of things, where it wasn't just like an artist going in and like digitally creating this effect or whatever, or the face of some digital character. It was like they had to create programs that rendered the hair and moved the hair with the skeleton, the puppet form within the CG program, and they had to develop like code basically that would run the hair as its own separate. It was almost like a predecessor to the AI kind of tools, because it was basically like it was just putting the inputs in and then letting it naturally happen. So nobody was in there like shaping it. It was just like something they would just specify.
It was reacting to movement and actual physics model.
So who would you say created the hair in those like programs and those animated movies and stuff? Was there an artist that did it? Not really, but there was somebody that created the code.
You could say the same thing about explosions and stuff too. Like those are patternized effects. They're not digitally
explosions in CG. I thought we were going to like explosions in real. What is Rocky doing?
Explosions in real life are real. Those are real.
Just a pyrotechnic guy over here.
I better blur my background so you don't see all my stuff back there. Anyway,
FBI is knocking on the door.
I'll tell you about the chemistry, how to do all that if you need.
There you go. Now it comes full circle, coming all the way back around.
Unfortunately,
we find out.
The only thing I know how to blow up is WordPress sites. I'm really good at that.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, from the public standpoint, I don't think, if it was a situation where you can't tell the difference, I don't think anyone's going to care. But at the same time, I do think, going back to your point, Clark, and what we were mentioning earlier, there is going to be, as far as the slop goes, there is going to be, I think, a hunger for real artists type of, drawings, creative, work being pushed out there by a real human. And I think that's where it's going to go. And then that's going to fetch a lot of money at some point. But, this is a new shiny toy. And if you go back to look at Spider-Man movies, back in 2000, that 3D was amazing at the time. But if you look back at it now, now that we've adapted to seeing even better 3D and CGI, you can notice things within that. So I think it's going to be progressive. But if it
Wait a
was
minute,
same, I
who
don't
was
know.
who was the
You know?
who was the best Spider-Man? Now that we're talking
Ooh.
about
Oh man,
this, Tobey Maguire or was it Andrew Garfield? Who else?
Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland are the three
Tom Holland.
main.
I don't know.
Who's the best one?
Gosh, I don't know.
I really enjoyed the Tobey Maguire transformation from nerdy guy, struggling to talk to girls into this Spider-Man character. And I did enjoy that. That was,
sounds like real life.
Yeah. And they don't do that as much anymore. You don't see the transition. You kind of just jump into Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
And it was, I kind of do miss the backstory there. And that was, I still appreciate that Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, you had those two kind of living together a little bit more. The new Spider-Men are all a little cooler, than Tobey was. And
right.
Yeah.
I still kind of miss, there's that classic trope in comic books of the heroic side and the kind of nerdy, uncool side, I kind of
mild-mannered reporter.
Yeah, you got the Supermans and you got the Spidermans, and I don't know, there's probably some others. I guess Batman sort of broke the mold because he's cool on both sides.
He is cool, yeah.
But now they're all just cool.
I digress.
Anyway, I know we went off on a tangent there. All right, well, I mean, let's get away from AI for a minute, and let's talk work. Let's talk clients. Let's talk one of our rapid fire questions. Our rapid fire got way off the rails by that. It ended up being very not rapid fire.
Yeah.
But one of them was worst client request you've ever gotten, Chris.
Oh,
and you have to name the client, and we're going to put their website on screen.
I record everything in a spreadsheet, so no problem. The moment it happened, I marked it down.
There you go.
I can't say I've had a worse client request. Most of the time, it might be a last minute thing during the holidays. The day before.
It's more the timing. It's more the sure.
Before Christmas. It seems like every year there's always, a call that needs to be made, 2 days before Christmas. We got to get on this call, talk about this project. This past year, I had a project that a website needed to be done by the end of December. Everyone realized they do have a life and they would like to enjoy the holidays, and it didn't happen until January. So, but the pressure is put on you. So I would say it's more of a cohort of client as a group than a single client for me, at least.
Sure. I think we need to go full COVID lockdown during the holidays.
Yes.
I think only necessary, first responder kind of, those are the only jobs. Everything closed down for 2 weeks.
Right.
So none of us have to do anything.
This actually brings up another interesting point though, Chris, and based on that, and it's expectations today versus expectations, even just a few years ago. Is there this from a client standpoint, and we've all worked directly with clients in various capacities, is the expectation that, hey, you creatives should be able to do this faster because you have more tools available to you. So faster, cheaper, better, right? Are you seeing any of that when it comes to web specifically? Things the typical timelines just aren't cutting it anymore?
No, I'm not. I haven't seen any difference in anything since I've been in this industry, except for when WordPress became popular, website quotes started to lower. So those expectations of, hey, we can put templates in, or, people were custom coding in WordPress, and creating designs that way, custom designs, and then templates became very popular. And that's when the shift happened, in my opinion. And that's when I saw it. But I haven't noticed anything expectations. I mean, I had 20 years ago, I had someone come to me for a two mitosis animations to be done in Flash before Christmas. And so, you just do
easy. It. Yeah, no problem.
Piece of cake. Yeah.
That's the one overlap from chemistry, even though it's biochemistry. I had a minor in biology, so I had to take so many courses. So one overlap, I guess, example of that I'm remembering now.
Chris, I'm telling you, the amount of niche like web design sites you should have out there right now.
Right.
You should have the personal training niche. You should have the biochemistry niche.
Right.
Cover all of these.
I should be working
different sites for each one. Just tell them.
What, Chris, what was the weirdest website?
That's my problem. I'm just lazy.
Chris, what was the weirdest, in your view, website you've ever worked on, or the most strange?
Oh, that's man, you guys have a lot of great questions. It's almost like you prepared. No,
we definitely did not prepare.
I can't say that wow, you're
strange.
I mean, the mitosis. The mitosis one is whatever that was for.
Flash animations, some little squares.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't have anything off. You know, I mean, I'm
categorically weird.
Like going back in the years in my head for that.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to answer that either.
Rocky designed PokeWorld. That was the weirdest.
I did. That was cool though. It wasn't weird. I mean, it's kind of weird now when you think back at it, but
I think I have more. You know, if I wanted to name drop clients, I have more of that, and like, okay, we worked with some bigger companies than I have anything weird. You know, like, you're in the Bay Area, so I was a web developer for Fisherman's Wharf's website. You know, for years.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So, there's also a I forget what it is now, but there was like a local tourist California Bay Area website promoting all the highlights down there that I would take care of as well. So things like that is more something I can relate to. But I've been very lucky in my career to not have too many problems or weird things or. I mean, before I met you, it was like smooth sailing.
Okay, the weird stuff.
Your stages, we're gonna get bumpy. That's fine. I accept the challenge. But Clark is here. He's gonna keep things cool.
I'll try.
All right, you know what? I want to ask Clark the same question actually, because I don't think we ever asked this. Anything pop out to you in your career that was like you did it anyway because you needed to do it, but it was kind of weird and odd?
I mean, I definitely worked on like some random stuff. A frame company that did like custom framing needed a site, but he also had, which was actually kind of cool, he had original photographs that his dad took, I believe, during World War II when he was stationed in Paris. Wow. And he was it gets weirder. Pablo Picasso was like wanting somebody to take photos of him or something. I don't know how he ended up doing this, but it was all these photographs of Pablo Picasso, these original photographs that he was like, we would put them on the site as like something you could also buy, like custom framing and photographs of Pablo Picasso. That's like that's a pretty random one.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking random, I guess, I was just thinking, I had a client down in Long Beach, and they had a client in Kauai. And they would do a lot of extreme sports over there. So they had us do all these like dirt looking. I worked with, I had a contractor that was an illustrator. And so between us, we put all these illustrations into Flash and of all these motocross stuff and whatever. But that was kind of strange, I guess. But you do the things you need to do because it's either a cool client or you want to make the money.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
That's how we all have survived, I'm sure, at times.
Oh, I'm sure we've all taken on stuff that was like, I mean, I don't know.
I haven't gone as low as Clark. I mean, or Clark's down, can't see.
All right. It was me that built PokeWorld.com.
Right.
If you guys never worked on designing labels for tuna cans, then you're in good shape, because that was me.
That's like the true art is canned labels. I have a whole, don't even get me started on the world of like canned fish and the uniqueness of packaging you can find within canned fish. Like,
oh wow,
there's like a true art form to that. That's like where the only design that really matters is canned fish design. That's my opinion. That's my hot take. Speaking of hot takes, a good take. Let's get into the hot take corner.
Oh,
all right.
We've got a little corner set up over here with hot takes.
Okay.
And I'm going to let Rocky take this.
Well, I mean, this one's a little general, but is there anything is there a hill you will die on, essentially, in web development that most people would disagree with you on?
Oh, wow. See, I want to get along with everyone. Let's all have a good time. We can diversify.
But something you believe in. It's your core conviction. Like, you can never change this.
Man, you guys, like I said, have some great questions.
Yeah, we don't send our questions out ahead of time either.
I know. You put me on the spot. Uh, that's why you're getting very neutral answers. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think WordPress or Webflow is going away. I would say that no matter how much AI there is.
Okay.
That's a hot take. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah,
WordPress will never die. Okay.
Yeah, WordPress.
Too much of the internet's built on WordPress.
Not in our careers, at least. It's not dying.
Yeah.
You know, Elementor is going to keep coming in, or whoever, and new competition, and they're just going to build upon what they have and make it easy, because there's never going to be a world where people aren't going to want to edit their own website, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
you're either going to do
fair enough
Webflow, WordPress, or somewhere else.
Okay. If you could fix one thing about the creative industry and how it treats developers specifically, what would you change?
Oh, I think that's I think
what does it get wrong?
Oh, well, I think just people need to be kind in business more in general, but yeah, web developers.
Do you think that people are less kind to developers and people like that are in the trenches of building these things?
Yeah, they can be. Yeah, I've had random calls where people come, call me up and just start, speaking to me in a manner I wouldn't speak to someone else. So I think there's that, but a lot of people look at web developers as heroes in a sense of like fixing problems. So, if you needed a plumber, you got a water leak, you look at that person as like, wow, thank you for, helping me.
A lot of technical skill.
Right.
There's a lot of technical skill to it.
It can be, but I also think designers, graphic designers have that too, because a lot of people will, it comes to a timing thing again. You need to produce really great artwork in a short time. And for me, when I've done graphic design in the past, there's a zen to it that I need to get into that mindset versus web development and vice versa. So, I think graphic designers need a lot of accolades for that, because a lot of people come to them and ask for things last minute, and that's really hard. I think, to be creative on the spot, really difficult.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, Chris, before we let you go, we started this episode, Rocky and I, talking about the return of hand-drawn, handmade, in-camera effect, a lot of that type of work nowadays. You've been building websites for 20, 30, 55 years now.
Exactly. Yes. More than I've been alive.
Sure. And we'll say 10. Yeah. So keep you young.
Yes.
Do you think we'll ever see a movement of like back to hand coded, back to putting it all in yourself, coding that CSS line by line, right. artisanal HTML, as my friend Rocky calls it.
Yes. Yeah. That would be a hard no if you want a hot take. That's a hard no. That will never happen.
I mean, I miss the days when you just started with top of your HTML document, open bracket, HTML, close bracket. It's like so fun. Like, what can I build?
That blank page in Dreamweaver, Macromedia Dreamweaver 30 years ago. No, thanks. I'm not going back.
Yeah, I think there's always
with Chris.
Exactly. I think there's always going to be a need for looking at code and fixing problems, but to do it by hand, no way. I mean, that's what I started doing, and you form your efficiencies and all that with it, but WordPress changed it. Now Webflow is presenting a more developer stance, on it, in a way, with their interface. And so I think what is the most helpful in that case is knowing how to hand code. So when you come across problems, because you need to know foundation of like just even basic things like units. You don't know an REM unit is 16 pixels. Well, that could really screw you up if you're converting something or doing something else. Just simple things. Even the animation of Webflow, why is this animation not working? You still need to know it. So in a way, I don't think there'll ever be hand coding again per se, but you're going to still have to know things and or manipulate code.
It only ever come back, Rocky and Chris, if they figure out a way to shoot the behind the scenes of it in some interesting way. Like if you're actually writing it on a piece of paper and you can have a little camera following your hand, because that'll play well on social media.
So. Exactly. Yeah. Next to what you ate for dinner. Yes.
There you go.
Hey, Chris, this has been a ton of fun. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in to the Somewhat Creative Show. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor. Subscribe wherever you listen and leave us a review. It really does help.
Huge thanks to Chris Grau for kicking off season 2 with us. And as always,
stay curious, stay creative.
We'll see you next time.